G'day everyone, it's Matt Rard here from eBusiness Institute, where we teach beginners how to get online and buy profitable websites. Now, today I'm really excited because we've got something very unique, and that is when people do get online, particularly if you're a beginner, you often don't think about the asset value of websites and just how valuable they can be. So in today's interview, what I want to share with you is an amazing story from a father and son team, David and Connor, who they've kindly agreed to come on and talk openly about some amazing websites that they have bought recently that are worth now millions of dollars by following our course. So these guys are students on the Digital Investor Program. And the reason why I think you're going to find this interview so inspiring is not only because of their personal story and how they got into this and what they've done, but I want you to take home the big lesson that and realize that these website assets can be hugely valuable, worth in the millions, and you're certainly going to see that today in this interview. So guys, I do want to say a big thank you for coming on and agreeing to talk about your websites and the traffic and things, because the three of us, I think, we have so much fun. Whenever we all do a call, we all get super excited. And I know on the last call, you guys said, look, we're happy to do an interview with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for having us. You've been a great mentor to us as well.
Thank you, guys. And so let's rock into it. The sites that you guys have got to, let's blow everyone away with the numbers and everything. They are, can you tell us what niches they're in? So we're going to talk about two sites today, guys, the ones that you guys have bought. And so tell us the niches that are in, just approximately. We don't want to give away the exact websites, but also the sort of traffic stats.
All right, I'll do the first one, which is the first website that we bought in 2019. It's in the farming niche, and I don't really have a background in farming, and I bought it through Quiet Light.
Yep.
And I just inquired about it, and then it said farming. And then when I heard about it, I was like, huh, is that really a thing? And then I looked at the statistics, and they were pretty solid. And the whole idea was I was going through a whole different type of training in e-commerce. And these guys were saying that you really need to have a content site that drives traffic to your products. And that's how you do
Awesome.
Well with Amazon. So that was the initial reason for becoming interested in content sites and investing. And this particular site averages about 500,000 page views a month.
Yep.
During the season, it almost approaches 1 million during the season, the spring season, and then it tapers off in the winter.
And how much does that site make, David? Because we'll come back to some details in a minute. How much does that site make you a year?
Yeah, probably 280 to 300,000.
Yep. So 300K. Awesome. And then Connor, tell us about the big site that you've got.
So we acquired a site in the pet niche in 2020. That one gets about, Dad, what is it? About 1 million page views a month.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was one. So what had happened is I believe from 2018 to 2020, I was in medical device sales. And then right during COVID, I actually got let go from my distributorship that I was working for. And I was studying while I was at home during lockdowns. Is I bought this course with money I did not have or I couldn't afford to put towards, but I bought this e-commerce course, and I was studying e-commerce because I was going to learn how to do actually drop shipping.
Oh yeah.
And and then I remember one day my dad came over, and I was showing him all my notes that I had been taking because I was like, I want to change my life. I didn't necessarily wanted to be an employee. I wanted to be in control of, my future. And so that's why I was interested in e-commerce. And then I showed my dad all these notes, and he's like, well, I have a website. This is before he actually acquired the second one. This is the one that he just talked about in the farming niche. And he said, why don't we work together? And I said, okay. And then, in August of 2020, that was the other one what we purchased, or he purchased.
And that one now, guys, just so you're listening, what's really exciting about this, because we're going to go into a bit more detail here, is this is a standard pet niche website that I guarantee, what do you reckon, guys? If any, you know our community really well, right? You've been to all our events and stuff. And what do you reckon? Anyone that just looked online, you probably wouldn't give it a second glance, really, would you? It's your standard pet content site. And how much traffic does it get, Connor? What is it? 1 million page views a month?
Yeah, that's correct. If you checked out the site too, especially like, because it's funny, when we acquired the site, I don't think the previous owner had actually changed the theme when he first started it. So
yeah,
it's definitely standard, like you said, and you would be surprised.
Yeah, I think anyone, you would be, it's a passion site started by someone passionate about pets. It's just bog standard content site. Looks like any of the sites on our courses. And how much does it generate a year, Connor? You can say it now, and then we'll go back to what it used to do. But how much does it generate a year now?
That, I would say my dad would be a better person to answer that question. That one, I'm not, he knows the numbers. He looks at those every day.
$500,000 to $600,000.
Awesome.
Dollars.
So that site, David, is a multi-million-dollar content website.
Yeah.
It's probably worth around 2.5 mil now. And this is the story that I want not only our audience, but you guys to realize as well, that you're sitting on an asset, a super valuable asset that's more valuable than real estate. Because David, let's look at this. Everyone's sitting here listening, going, wow, these guys are sitting on two, and you've got some other sites that you've built since being on our course as well, but you're sitting on two big multi-million-dollar websites, right? But what's your background? So David, for you, what is your background? Because it's quite an interesting story how you got into this game. What do you actually, how would you class yourself day to day, who you are?
Yeah, I am an investor, and I love trying to find businesses that are good investments, good assets that I can figure out how to run passively or build a team that can run it. Yeah. And I can still be involved, but I don't have to do the day-to-day. And that's where the websites have been spot on for sure. But you got to have someone like Connor that's helping you. And then as you grow, you need to build your team. And we built a team. Connor will probably tell you a little bit about that, because we built a team over in the Philippines. But my background is selling medical devices, hip and knee replacements, whatnot. I did that for 20 years, and then sold that, and then invested in commercial real estate, like mini storage. Yeah, is what we call in the U.S. And then I sold one of my commercial properties and bought the two websites, which a lot of my friends, when I told them, they were like, huh? You did what? I sold a Burger King, where I had kind of ground lease underneath the Burger King, which is like gold over here in the US, but it was like a 6% return. So, that's your typical cap rate return that you get on commercial real estate over here, at least those high quality leases. And I still own another one, so I still am involved in the commercial real estate, but I really enjoy doing the websites also.
I'm sure you like the financial returns of the websites too. The two that you bought are just like, because when you bought, tell us, David, it's a really interesting story, and you did a couple of really smart things, particularly with the pet site. When you bought that, so we've heard how much it's worth now. This thing's worth over, like, say, what, 2 to 2.5 mil. But how much did that website cost you?
Probably, well, it cost me less than half that. still a good chunk of money, but this is the part that I enjoy doing, because I did it when I bought a mini storage. Is I was looking for over a year until I found one where I saw an opportunity where the owner really only had AdSense. I knew the traffic, I knew the page views, I knew from the other site that we had bought the kind of revenue that we could get off of those page views.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to close him through one of the brokers over a weekend, because I figured this, because sometimes they give certain people access to listings before they send them out to everybody. And I knew they were sending it out on Monday. And this was like a Thursday, Friday. And I knew I needed to get it under contract over the weekend, because anybody else that was experienced would go, holy crap.
Yep.
This guy has no idea what he has. So
when you bought the site, how much money was it making?
It was doing, probably about 300,000.
300,000 a year, yeah. And you're okay if you say the buy price, because I think it's a really cool story.
Say what products?
No, the buy price that you paid for the website at 300,000.
Yeah, I paid $1 million. So
$1 million. So you compare that to commercial real estate, where you get a 6% cap rate. So these are now this is a business, online business. So I want people to realize these are valuable assets. So you paid $1 million. Now, how long ago was that? 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah.
And now it's worth $2.5 million. So guys, you need to get the story here. This is a bog standard content site with lots and lots of articles and traffic, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And so so now it makes 600,000. What was the main renovation that you've done on the site over those 2 years?
I added AdThrive.
So
I had AdThrive on the other site.
Yeah.
And I knew that if I added it to this site, it would add a dramatic amount of revenue per month. So right now it does 30 to 35,000 a month in ad revenue, and he was doing less than $1,000 a month.
Wow, that is super cool. So see how simple it is when you've got the knowledge. Like, that's got to be the simplest web reno. Like, you've just created millions of dollars too. Like, long term as well, if we think out 5 to 10 years, because that's such a big solid asset, it's got a really high domain authority, everything about it. Hobby site. Okay, nice hobby site, by the way, sold for $1 million. Not nice one for the seller, but you've now sitting on an asset that's worth in the millions, multi-millions, plus you've doubled the cash flow return. So that compares very favorably, I would imagine. You're a full-time investor to commercial real estate.
Oh, very favorably. Yeah. You're talking 30, 40% return compared to 6% that you get on commercial real estate.
And David, are you like you said to me off camera and stuff, you know, whilst you're an investor, a professional investor, and you tend to be a passive investor in this instance, because you've involving family like Connor, it's not as hands off, like you see yourself as an investor, but an operator as well.
Yeah. So definitely I am, and Connor can talk about this, that commercial real estate, pretty much, you know, they wire the money into my account and you don't do anything for 20 years. But depending on your personality, you know, that can be pretty boring, and you can almost feel like the world's passing you by because you've got all that money invested in something that gives you a very steady return, but it's not going anywhere. It's not really increasing, maybe a little bit, you know, but nothing like a website. So there are times when there's Google updates, we've had some issue. We switched who was hosting it. We had some issues with the company that was hosting it. We had some times where the site would go down for a little bit of time. And when you got a site that big that's making that much money and it goes down, and you get a notice from Uptime and you're like, oh my God. So it's not like it's a piece of cake. I have to mentally always tell myself every day, Dave, it's only a matter of time before something happens. It's gonna happen, so just relax. Don't overreact. Connor's real good at keeping me calm. He's like, Dad, this is like in a Rubik's Cube. We just got to kind of figure out how everything's supposed to be set up.
Yeah.
And I'm going, why did this thing go down? Why is this happening? Yeah.
And one other quick point, and then I'll come to you, Connor, because it's really cool talking to a father-son team here, and you guys work so well together, because I do want to cover that in a minute. But on that purchase, Dave, you mentioned before a really smart way how you had to buy it, because there was a timeline. You know, remember when you bought that $1 million and you wanted to do the deal by Monday through the broker, the website broker. What did you do to make sure that deal went through? Because I think that's a good lesson so it opens our eyes to there's alternative ways you can get into these big deals.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I didn't have $1 million. I had 650. And so I had to get an investor. And so I had to convince the person very quickly. I talked to a couple of family members, and they turned me down. They're like, what are you, crazy? And but this family member, I convinced, and this all had to happen very quickly. And then I had to get it under LOI as soon as possible, because he was even the guy, my broker or his broker, was saying that he wasn't even sure that the owner really wanted to sell it.
Wow.
So he's approaching me. But then when I said, how much does he want? $1 million. I did all my math. I go, okay, we'll do it. Let's do it now. Cash offer. And awesome. He's like, I'll talk to him. And then he talks to him and he goes, he's not 100% sure that he wants to do it. He's not sure if maybe he could get more. And I'm like going, oh boy, here we go. The broker did a great job keeping them calm and convincing them, hey, this is a legitimate offer. This guy owns another site. It's a cash deal. You need to do this. And he got him to sign over the weekend.
Awesome. And you're happy to say who the broker is?
Yeah, FE International.
FE International, yeah. So they obviously did a good deal for good outcome for both, because he was a hobbyist. So you raised an investor over the weekend so that by Monday you could do a cash deal or agree to a cash deal.
Because I knew once more experienced people saw this, there's just no way I would, if it's a really good opportunity. So I had learned that from the past, that this was a great opportunity. And I knew if I didn't do something over the weekend and I kind of go, wow, it's a lot of money. It's a website, a pet website. Are you kidding me? What? So, but I knew that I needed to jump on it. And unfortunately, it's worked out.
So that's a good lesson for anyone listening to why it's worth when you're ready to step it up. Buying bigger websites, it's very worthwhile developing good relationships with good website brokers. And you can see them on our website here. There's lots of the brokers out there. So you guys have bought websites through Quiet Light and FE International, and that's worked out really well. And so, Connor, let's have a look at your role here. So you jumped in and kind of, because you'd been doing e-com. Really though, when you think about it, when you started doing this full time with your dad, your dad bought these two massive, fairly big websites. Bit of pressure on you, mate. And you're really, looking back, you're just still quite a beginner with content sites. Like
on a scale of 1 to 100, 1 to 100 at level 1, as far as like when I decided to go to move in or to go forward with this and work with my dad. But I was going to say, I was at level 1, totally new. I mean, I also had no experience. My only experience in drop shipping was studying drop shipping. So,
so you hadn't even started a website at that point.
Right.
No.
And all of a sudden you guys are into, earning hundreds of thousands off these content sites. Obviously you discovered us as well, and you did how did you find, how did you guys find us or eBusiness Institute?
So I have a good friend, and she knew that I owned the first website. She found you somehow. I don't know exactly how. And she said, Dave, could you please look at this course and tell me if I made a good decision or not of investing? And I asked her how much, and it was a pretty good amount of money. And I said, sure, I'd love to look at it. I looked at it and I said, you need to study this course as much as possible. This is the best course that I've ever seen on SEO and running websites and buying websites. I said, information is phenomenal. So then, of course, I was able to take your course because I had this relationship with her, and then we created the relationship with you, and Connor's gone through your course, and so it's funny how things like that work out, right?
Yeah.
Because she has yet to buy her own website. I thought you were going to be on a podcast. Oh, I want to be on the podcast. And I said, well, you got to buy a website first.
Well, so Connor, let's ask you then, looking at, you're on a scale of 1 to 100, like you said, you're a 1, total beginner. Your dad gave you access to our course. You've jumped on, you're learning all about content sites. So now over these last, say, year or two, what's in running this site, coming in as a beginner, I want to say big congratulations. I think you've done an awesome job. You always ask the right questions and you're out there researching everything. But in general, in running this course, because I'm sure you can appreciate and relate very closely to anyone listening to this. Lots of people in our community are like you, just starting out, but they don't get the opportunity to jump straight into a multi-million-dollar website content site.
Yeah,
what does it look like running it day to day, particularly from a beginner's point of view? I'm fascinated. What are the main things that you're doing, and what's your team? Let's also get to, because I know people are going to want to know, what sort of a team do you have on a site like that?
So let's see, starting out new, I would say.
Tell them about Richard. Is that
So we also we had someone from the first site that we had purchased that had some SEO training, because he was, I believe, partners with the previous owner, or he ran the website.
Oh yeah.
And then he agreed to stay on and train me prior to us taking your guys' courses. And then on top of that, the owner of the second site, he also trained me at least for 30 days. And I kind of had to take as much. I did, like, you just have to, I don't know if you've ever started like a new skill or something like that. It's like drinking from a fire hose, right? They always use that analogy. So for those first 30 days, I was just constantly, I had like a notebook that I was constantly just taking notes, and just pretty much at my desk, just studying every single day. I was being trained by both of them. So that was a super awesome foundation prior to like taking your guys' courses. But I guess as far as the mindset when you first start is, I didn't really see it as like as overwhelming or like daunting. I think it was just like the other option of, being an employee just sounded a lot worse.
Yeah.
To me. So like I much rather, I'm like, well, okay, this is exactly what I wanted. This may not have looked picture perfect exactly the way I was thinking, but this is better than the other option, which is put my resume together and go out and job hunt, during the pandemic. So I didn't really have an option. But I also, I kept myself just, head down, just trying to consume and learn as much as I possibly could. And it was weird because I think when we first start something, there's all this hesitation on execution. That's one thing that I at least dealt with, outside of, so I swam professionally for 17 years, but when I got into the corporate world, that was a big hang up for me, was trying to like execute. So like when I first got in the corporate world, I was doing life insurance sales and going door to door, knocking on people's doors. So that kind of same exact thing, but for whatever reason with computers and with learning SEO and the website, I didn't really have that fear of execution. And it might have just been because we had a great, I guess, kind of training camp for me, having the previous owner of both of those websites, and then also stumbling upon your course. So, but I'd say, mindset is just, you got to kind of keep your head down and just execute and just continue like to do it every single day. And that feeling of like being where it's daunting or like, oh my God, I don't even know anything, is just, you just have to do it one day and then the next day. And then the next day, it's the same thing as, working out every day.
And it's awesome. And Dave, you must be very proud of Connor. What a brilliant business partner to have, because my observation is you are very driven, very conscientious, and you work your butt off. And it's interesting, when we've done these calls, it's all about, making sure you're overcoming the fears. There is, like you said, the fear, executing. That's what we see across our community. It is scary. A lot of us are total beginners online. It's scary to hit that publish button. Have I done the right thing here? What am I doing? And man, you've done so well. Like where you are now, it's like and you always ask the right questions. You're just on it the whole time. And that's why I think you've got such good, you've stabilized the websites. They're in a really good position. And you obviously love what you do here. And your team's not that big, is it either? It's not like you've had to grow a massive, it's not like you've got to suddenly start running lots of people. How many people are in your team now? Just a couple of writers mainly?
Let's see. Yeah. We had another editor, and now we have a new editor, and we have, I think, I want to say we have like 3 or 4 writers. Some of them on Upwork, some of them full time. The full time ones we have about 3 or 4. I'd say 4. We have 4 full time writers. These are writers that we hired through an online platform. And these people are all based in the Philippines. And because the Philippines is, I think, one of the top rated English speaking countries. Yeah. So that's basically how we had that done. And then I was going to say something, kind of just finish up or to wrap up that thought, is, the adage as far as what we were talking about, the mindset of as a beginner, is I'd say done okay is better than waiting to be done perfectly.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. That's what I teach everyone here when we're privately coaching them is do Matt's thing. Don't think, just do. I've been saying that for years. And online I had to learn that as well. Like, you've sometimes just got to hit the go button. It's not going to be perfect. So say your one again, Connor.
Done okay is better than waiting to be perfect.
Yep. And look at the results again. That is perfect. And that's what you found works well online then as well.
For sure, because we have articles that maybe knowing what we know now, they rank, they get good traffic, and I'm like, wow, this is not as far as based off of the SEO training and training that we've learned how to put together an article. It's like it was just one of those ones where it was like, this is a very okay article, but it gets traffic. So it just really depends on it depends on just numbers game.
Help the audience.
I'd say my dad always likes to quiz me on some mornings that he'll call me and be like, what's the 3 things that you learned from swimming that like you can put into like today. And and growing up, I used to, a 13-year-old where I grew up having a pretty intense training schedule, mainly because of him. And obviously I wanted to hang out with my friends. But I am grateful for those experiences. And I'd say for sure, what helped me be successful is consistency. So making sure you block out hours, at least a day, to work on that no matter what. And just kind of, keep learning and keep growing, just be better than yesterday.
Yeah, that is so important. And you've done that really, really well. You don't let up, and it works. And that's why sometimes I think something you mentioned really interesting there, Connor, even when we post what we know is kind of average articles, they can still work because you're just turning up and your visitors to your website. And remember, now you're getting like 1 million visitors to your website every month. There's a lot of people interested in pets. And you guys aren't even I know, Dave, you love pets and everything, but Connor, for you, pets it's not like you're an expert in the niche or anything, is it?
Not
not yet. Not yet. He makes that joke because when I first started, I was learning SEO. Now I'm a pet food nutrition specialist.
All right.
I also so basically you build the plane on the way down, kind of, as you learn as you go. So I definitely wear many hats.
And what I do want to have a quick look at is this content idea, right? Because people are going to be fascinated. They're going, wow, okay, we got these big websites. One of them gets, nearly 1 million views a month. And the farming one gets 500,000 visits a month. So we're talking 1.5 million, page views a month. This is a big site. So what's the content velocity? How many articles are on, let's just say the pet site. Let's just stick with that one because that's simplest, because the other one's roughly half that size, isn't it? So the pet site, how many articles are sitting on there, and what's the volume of articles that you're creating each week?
So the amount of articles is pretty stark difference, I think, just because the content that the previous owner was putting out. We have, I want to say, probably close to 53 or 5,400 articles on the pet one.
54.
And we now put out at least an article every single day, on top of updating
awesome.
Several articles a week.
And that's one of the things that you guys and I have worked with on calls when we're doing the web reno on your website. It's so much fun. Any of you listening who are SEO nerds or content website, it's so much fun, isn't it? Going through your Google Analytics, looking at what articles work. There's about 5,500 articles sitting there. Remember, this is a multi-million-dollar website, just giving you everyone some ideas of what the realities are of running a multi-million-dollar website. So you're producing about an article a day with a team in the Philippines, and you've got about 3 to 4, would you say, full-time writers? And they're not subject experts, are they? Actually, I'll come back to that in a minute. So they're standard writers that you would find on Upwork, would you say?
So the 4 writers that we have full-time, is that what you're asking about them?
Yeah.
So those we found, on that platform that I told you, I would say, they're pretty standard, equivalent to like someone you would find on Upwork. They're just in the Philippines, and obviously the US dollar goes very far over there. But they have pretty basic writing skills, and we've just trained them, which has been a lot of work, but it's paid off.
Yep. And so now you've got 4 writers and 2 editors. Is that correct?
Correct. And on top of that, because we are, hiring more writers, but in the meantime, still trying to put out as much content as possible, we do have two Upwork writers for the farming. Okay, so we have Yeah. And then we also have, I believe, 2 other Upwork writers for the pet website as well. So we have, some Upwork writers just to, we'll assign them articles maybe that aren't as crucial for SEO to be, to the level that we want. But and then we kind of groom them a little bit as we work with them. Hey, great job. We'd like to see a little more of this, like a little more of that. But
yourself, part of your journey over this last 2 years, Connor, has been you yourself edited up articles and fixed up articles as well, haven't you?
Yes, hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds. I know.
I've lost count.
Good. That's what I wanted you to
count.
say. Yeah, don't hold back. Let everyone know that this has been a big part of your journey. You guys are very hands-on here. So, even on a big multi-million-dollar website, you are getting in yourself and editing up hundreds of articles because it's worth it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we also have a graphic design person that does infographics.
Oh, yeah.
Right. He actually was our first employee prior to the writers. Yeah.
Okay. And I think, Dave, you also said you've got an actual farmer who writes for you as well.
Yeah, on Upwork, right? And then on the pet site, we have somebody we inherited that has helped us build the YouTube channel.
Awesome. Okay. And that gives everyone an idea of what it's like to run and operate a content website. It's pretty straightforward. It's just at scale. Sure. So if you're starting out buying a small website, you heard what the guys are doing. They're running exactly the same system as if you've bought a $10,000 website or a $20,000 website. It's just this thing's at scale. So there's 3 to 4 writers. There's a few part-time writers. There's a couple of editors. And you also heard, really important, is that Connor himself has gotten in over the years and edited up hundreds of articles. That means you can now teach your editors and your team exactly. They've got a role model to follow, haven't they?
Exactly. Like, right now I'm also, I'm also learning to copyright too.
Cool.
It's like I always learn, then train. Learn, then train. Yeah.
Learn and then train. Yeah, that's awesome. And then, so one other interesting aspect that we'll talk about with the website, I know we said way back at the beginning of this interview, the number one big reno that you did to fix up the monetization was just simply change over to AdThrive, which doubled everything. But some of the other interesting stuff that we've all spoken about is some of the, because your site's big and it's in the pet niche, which is a huge niche, you guys regularly get approached by corporates, don't you? Or some big players out there in the US.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty constantly, right, Connor?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if Dad, I guess we could say there's one big aggregator that confronted us, right? I mean,
that wanted to buy our site.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is something we've talked about. It's going to happen a lot over for you guys because your site is definitely on the radar. It ranks very high. Well, both those sites rank very highly and they're in such cool niches. But the other thing that's interesting is you've mentioned how many times you get commercial advertisers wanting to advertise and do deals and joint ventures. So now, just so everyone realizes, it's not something you're focused on at the beginning in the first 2 years of this website, but now you're starting to more consider some of those opportunities working with these big commercial, like direct advertisers and aggregators and stuff, other than just AdSense. Because up until now, your site's mainly been just monetized by AdThrive, hasn't it? Which is advertising.
And Amazon.
And Amazon, yeah. But the Amazon's not a big, is it? It's not that big.
15, 20,000 a month.
Oh, okay. On the pet side. Okay, so it is as a percentage. That's still working well for you then.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would
nice
say
one.
I've heard the strategy, like what you're talking about, where you say focus on the, just putting out content. You've talked about this where, some people don't even have a backlink strategy. They just put out content and then that gets them backlinks because they focus on content.
which
So
is
the same kind of thing as you focus on content, you also get approached by advertisers. You just focus on that.
yeah.
And thanks. That's cool, Connor, to hear that. So guys, you're hearing like someone that owns a site with 1 million views a month. That's what your experience has been over these 2 years. You just automatically get approached by some, like one of the ones we talked about this morning. It sounds fascinating. The deal they're offering you to do in effect, a sponsored post on your website.
Right.
Unless obviously you do have the means to have someone do that full time where they just reach out to people. But if you're the operator, then, you know, you can only do so much in a day. And I'd say the number one and number two thing you could be working on starting out is content and updating content. Yeah.
That's cool. And that's what you guys have basically focused on for the last 2 years, haven't you?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's cool. And that's, you just stick to that and it's working. And I do want to reiterate something to everyone listening. You're looking at the team right there. It's father and son run this thing. Like you said, you don't have the hours in the day. If you wanted to, you just hire more team. But so David, a question for you then, now that you look back at it and you look at this, how this whole business works, you know, is this pretty simple for you day to day?
Yeah, for me, it's very straightforward. It's about having the right team, and fortunately, I have Connor.
That's right.
So,
your secret weapon.
Well, when things really work out, it's because the opportunity was great for Connor, and then Connor, in his enthusiasm and knowledge and willingness to learn, was amazing for me. So that's why it worked so well, because I'm kind of in semi-retirement. I'm looking for more of a semi-passive investment. So that's where Connor comes into play, to where he's just building his career, and he's building all these skills on podcasting and YouTube channels and SEO and running websites, all these skills that every company in the world would love to have him on their staff. So that's the kind of skills that you want to learn that are in high demand. But fortunately, we're going to work together and just keep building the sites. Yeah. Connor's going to be an owner in the sites. So hopefully, you know, we just keep growing. But it's all about scaling. It's all about building that team now, you know, where Connor's more managing the team and recruiting, and managing the team and recruiting, because that's how you that's how you compete with the Goliath businesses in our niches. You know, the real big ones is just scale, right?
Yep. So that can be your next level. Yeah. So you go, Connor, because I'm going to ask you a final question. But I
wanted to. I don't know if there's many father-son or investor operator relationships out there, but I want to touch on, you know, if my relationship with my father, you know, from a business standpoint does not work, then it makes it difficult to obviously run effectively. So I think that's the most important part is like you said, you know, you mentioned secret weapon. You have to want to be the secret weapon despite, you know, because my dad and I are but we're both very intense. So sometimes we don't always agree, but we are committed to the future of the business. So I'd like to plug a little book that, you know, some extreme ownership from both sides. That's how you make it work. And that's all you have. That's also how you make it work if you're also a standalone operator, is you have to take extreme ownership every single day. But yeah, I wanted to touch on that point there.
Is that the book, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willing? That's his name. Yeah, I love that book. He's ex-military guy.
Yeah. Oh, I listen to his podcast all the time.
Yeah, same. He's a pretty intense guy. Okay, so that's where you're learning it from. All right. So it is an awesome book, by the way, Extreme Ownership. And I've got some affirmations out of that book that I use for myself every day, like just, you know, own it. and don't sit around waiting for things to happen. There'll rarely be a perfect time. Just get out there and make it happen. And I want to say, guys, a big thank you to you both, because seriously, I think we've covered a lot in this podcast, and I'd love to have you back on again once a year and we get an update with you both what's going on. But I do want to say a big thank you from all of us here in the community, the E-Business Institute. I think you've just gone and helped inspire a lot of people. You've given a lot of clarity to people and a lot of hope to people to realize, hey, a small website or going up to the big next level is exactly the same as the skills I'm learning as a beginner on a small website. And it is super, super cool. So I do want to say such a big thank you for that, guys. And love to have you on again.
Well,
absolutely.
We get so motivated anytime we speak to you, and we look forward to every time that we get to have a Zoom call with you, because you share your experience, we share our experience. You're always so excited. You always have great insight and answers for us. So we're hoping that the relationship goes on for a long time. We consider you almost like part of our board of directors.
All right. I love it, Dave.
Yeah, I wanted to make one last point on top of what my dad said, is if you're starting websites, you definitely need a mentor, and you need someone like Matt, because it definitely, you need someone to guide your ship, to guide the direction of the business, to guide, your goals and help you stay focused and motivated and excited about the business. So having someone like Matt that you can talk to and strategize with is one of the most important things, on top of obviously consistently, working on the business every day, is having a mentor. So I definitely recommend Matt.
Thank you, Connor. That is awesome. And again, I want to reiterate congratulations to you both. You guys work so well together, and you're just on it. And you, Connor, just all the things you're doing. Your dad must be very proud of the success and keeping these businesses going, because there's a lot going on with them, particularly when you're starting out a level 1 on a scale of 100. I love that analogy as a beginner. And mate, you've risen to the challenge over the last 2 years. You've absolutely nailed it. So well done, guys. And a big thank you for coming on to today's podcast.
Matt, we can't
Thanks
wait
again,
to
Matt.
talk to you again, Matt. Thanks for having us.
Same. Awesome, guys.
Yeah, this was a badass podcast.
Awesome.